Hello, this is Mrs. Schoaf, and I'm going to teach you about how to create an annotated bibliography. Most of you did this last semester, so it should just be a review for you. But really quickly, a bibliography is just a list of sources, and an annotation is a summary or evaluation. So when you put those two words together, an annotated bibliography includes a summary and or evaluation for each of your sources listed. So the first thing you need for your annotated bibliography, you need a header and a title in the upper left-hand corner of your paper. So the header is going to include your name, the teacher's name, the course title, which will be either English 12 CP or English 10 CP, and then the date. And right below the header, you're going to have a title, and it's aligned on the left-hand side of your paper, so it should not be centered. And you can just simply put your topic and then colon in annotated bibliography. Once you have your header and title, you will need source citations for each one of your sources. So this is just MLA format. You have either copied and pasted the source citations from the bottom of your article if you got your article from a Media Center database, or you've actually had to create your source citation if you got it from a website outside of the Media Center databases. If you need to know more about how to do that, Mr. Call has a video about MLA citations, and he can help you with that. But they need to be alphabetized when you list them, and they need to have a hanging indent. So as you can see, these are alphabetized, and there is a hanging indent. After you have each of your source citations copied and pasted into a Word document, you will need to be writing two paragraphs. The first paragraph is simply a summary of your article. So this is just going to include the main points from the text. You will not be using your opinion in this paragraph, so you should not have any personal pronouns like I, you, they, and it should be paraphrased. So you should not just be copying and pasting chunks from the text into your summary. You should be putting all of this in your own words. So we shouldn't see any quotation marks or anything like that, because you're just telling us the main points from the article. So the first paragraph underneath your source citation in your annotated bibliography is going to be your summary. So it's just going to be the main points, and you aren't going to have your opinion in there. You're just kind of stating basically everything that they said in the text. After you have your summary, then you will be writing the evaluation. So this is another paragraph. It's going to be your second paragraph underneath your source citation. And you are going to first explain how the source is credible. This is something that I talked to you about in my previous video, so this should have already been something that you've been thinking about, and hopefully you've even started writing about. So if you decided to use this source, hopefully you think that the source is credible. So the first question that you really want to ask yourself is, how is it credible? Is it from a database? Is it from a well-known, reputable company or author? Do they cite their sources within the text? So how is it credible? And then the next question you're going to ask yourself is whether your source is biased at all, and just acknowledging that is important, because you are creating an argumentative paper, so most of your articles are going to have one bias or another. So just recognizing that and explaining how it's biased is going to be important to include in your evaluation. And then finally, the last question that you want to ask yourself in the evaluation is, how do you plan on using this source in your paper? So being specific is important. I just don't want to see you write that I plan on using this information in my paper, period. I want you to explain how. So hopefully when you're reading your article, you're thinking about ethos, pathos, and logos, and how the author is appealing to their credibility, our emotions as the audience, and our logic, or including facts or data. So It would be great if you could include in your evaluation, for instance, if one of your articles had a really great example of pathos and maybe your topic's about abortion, and so the article shared how a woman who had an abortion is suffering from depression and anxiety and all of these things because of the abortion. That would be a good example of pathos, and if you plan on using that in your paper, just write a few sentences explaining how you're going to use it, so that way you have a better idea when you go back and look at your articles what you're going to use from each one of your articles. So once again, the evaluation is just an explanation as to whether or not you think the source is useful and explaining how you plan on using it in your research. In this part of your annotated bibliography, you can use personal pronouns and your opinion of the source. So you can say, I think that this is a good source to use because it has great examples of pathos. But you also might read the article and realize that it's not something that you plan on using in your paper because it doesn't quite relate to what you're talking about, or you already have that information, and that's totally fine to include too. So even if you don't plan on using the source in your paper, explain why you don't plan on using it. So the things to keep in mind, you need a header and title. After the header and title, you're going to have your source citations, and then under each source citation, you're going to have a summary of the source, and then you're going to have your evaluation of the source. So we're going to look quickly at some examples, and then we'll be finished. All right, so once again, you include your name first in the upper left-hand corner, your teacher's name, the course, and then the date. And then your title should just be in the left-hand margin as well, aligned with the left-hand margin, and it should just be your topic and then a colon in an annotated bibliography. And this is what it's going to look like. As you can see, they're alphabetized, and they have a hanging indent as well. And there are 2 paragraphs for each source. And those paragraphs align with the hanging indent. So as you can see, there's not another indent. So this is what your annotated bibliography should look like after you're finished. So what I want you to do is just go ahead and look quickly at this annotated bibliography. I'll try to make it a little bigger for you. And tell me 5 things that you think are wrong with this. You can talk about it with the person next to you or as a class. But what are some things that you notice about this annotated bibliography that are wrong, just by looking at the formatting? Okay, I think that was it. So hopefully you noticed a few things that were wrong. First of all, like I said previously, you need your name, the teacher, the course, and then the date. So that is right. But as you can see, you are supposed to have your title then aligned with this left margin, and you're supposed to have your topic. So I think this student wrote about T-pain, so that might look a little better. And I would go ahead and just make this single spaced, just like you see over here on the right-hand side. Something else that you might have noticed is that the source citations don't have a hanging indent. So one way of doing that is just coming over and hitting enter and then tab, and you have a hanging indent. And then after that, this paragraph should align with that hanging indent. So it should look exactly like this. And once again, we're missing a hanging indent. And there should be 2 paragraphs here. So there's just one. Make sure that you have a summary and then an evaluation. So there should be 2 paragraphs. And here there's a lot of space in between, which we don't need. And then we need another hanging indent. Oops. So hopefully you saw some things that were wrong with this annotated bibliography, and hopefully you won't make the same mistakes when you are making yours. If you have any questions about the requirements for your annotated bibliography, please make sure that you talk to your teacher and get all of your questions clarified so that way you can do your very best. Good luck.